Hello, you're watching Inside the WSL. Great to have your company and great to have the WSL back after the international break. Now, as it is October, we've got some fascinating chats coming up with incredible women in the game, trailblazing women in the game to celebrate Black History Month. Joining me this week on Inside the WSL is Courtney Sweetman-Kirk. Courtney, welcome back. Great to have you back.
Great to be back. I always enjoy it, so let's have a good chat, Jen.
Good. Now, I know you didn't have the best of weekends with Sheffield United, so we'll push that to the side. Let's focus on the WSL. Interesting to see Manchester City get their first points of the season. There's been a lot of change at the club. A lot of key names have left. A lot of new names have come in. What do you expect of them and the possibility of a title challenge?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be there and abouts, to be honest. I said this at the start of the season, and albeit a convincing win, you're seeing now Chelsea after stumbling there, getting going. Arsenal are doing so well domestically and in Europe. And I think Manchester United are, proving what they want in terms of everyone else. They wanted to be right up there. And yeah, they're doing that job, aren't they? Yeah,
you mentioned those so-called bigger clubs, the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United getting wins as well. Are you expecting to see those three kind of push away from the rest of the league now?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think the way that Arsenal are playing at the minute, they're unbelievable. I think Chelsea, you can never discount them, and I really do feel like this is the year for Manchester United to really go and push on and put daylight between themselves and the rest of the league.
Yeah, and what are you expecting from the teams below that? Aston Villa doing very well at the moment, despite their loss. They could surprise a few people, couldn't they?
Yeah, performing very well. I think Carla Ward is getting an even better reputation as the years go on. Now she's doing very well. Obviously, bringing Rachel Daly in, I think, was unbelievable business from herself and Aston Villa, and she will make the difference this season for them.
Yes, so it's Manchester United setting pace at the top of the WSL table. Now to two women who have set the pace throughout their careers. Rachel Yankey sat down with Manchester City and England defender Demi Stokes to talk about racism in football and also whether they see themselves as role models as black women within the game.
So what does Black History Month mean to you?
I think it's important. I think, obviously, in today's society with everything going on, and I think the platform that I hold is so important that I can help, I can be a voice. But I think as well, most importantly, just be myself. I think if I just be myself, and I think that's what people want, is someone authentic.
Yeah,
it's so important, and I just think if we can keep having tough conversations, difficult conversations, educate each other, because I think, I don't know everything. I don't know everything about my own heritage. I don't know everything about my own family. So, I always just say to people, if you're curious and you're intrigued, ask questions. And if I don't want to answer and I don't know the answer, then, we've still sparked something. You've probably learned something. I've learned something. So, I think it's really important, but it's not about this 1 month. And I always touch on that. It's about keeping the ball rolling. It's about keep pushing, and I think just fighting for what is right, and not just using it as like a one-off or a 1 month thing, and keep reminding people.
Yeah, no, definitely. I suppose what it does is it allows people that visual, that conversation breaker in that month, but like you say, it needs to go on.
Yeah, so I think it's good what we're doing, and I think it's good to celebrate, and I think as well we need to look back at where we were to where we are now, and I think they're the small wins, the small the small celebrations as well. So I think it's good to look at good things and not always negative, because we're quite good at that as English people.
yeah, we do like to do that. That's true. In terms of football, do you feel like a responsibility? Because people speak to me about this, because like you've just said, I never thought about that when I was growing up and playing, and it was only when I've stopped playing and people was like, oh, I looked up to you because you were the first black player that I saw. And I was like, I didn't really think about that. It was just me wanting to play football.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be anything other than selfishly wanting to win the game and play football.
Yeah.
So do you feel a responsibility?
Yeah, I do now, and like I said, looking back, I always used to look up to you, and I remember watching, I think it was an FA Cup game when you played at Charlton, and I remember seeing you play, and I was like, oh, well, I look very similar to her, and I play left wing and she does. So I can definitely relate. And then I think I was saying, like, I always just see myself as Demi. I don't see myself as this footballer or anything, but actually I do hold a responsibility, and I feel like I almost hold a responsibility as well to, I guess, help others in need as well. So, you know, whether it's me being a voice, or, you know, I can help someone out if they're struggling, or, you know, they need a pair of football. It's that kind of thing. I do think now, I'm like, you are important and people look up to you, so it's important. You know, I check myself and, you know, realise what I am doing, how I speak, and, you know, who I'm helping. So I do hold a great responsibility, because I'm in a fortunate position to do so as well.
Yeah. No, I get that. You've earned that position though. No luck to it or anything like that. You've earned it, man. You've done well. So in terms of you saying that, obviously I've read a small bit of an article about you speaking about having a baby, same-sex partnership, and, you know, it's not something that people usually go out and speak about, but you know, you've spoken about it, you know.
Yeah, no, I think with that, and obviously same sex, I think like I always say, it's important that I share my story, because like I know how difficult it was for us. I know how difficult it was for Katie, you know, to conceive. So if I can help someone's journey or life a little bit easier, I think obviously, you know, even if it's, you know, where did you go, what clinic did you use, or you know how was it? Because I was saying, when we were going through the process, obviously Katie was going through a tough time, and when it doesn't work, Katie's down here. So it was really important that I stayed here a lot of the time. And I remember she said, are you excited? And I was like, I am. But then it was a process to us. So I was like, right, she's pregnant. I need to get you to 12 weeks. I know 12 weeks is important. Let's get you to there. And she was like, you're so weird how you do that. And I said, well, it's
Katie play football?
No.
Okay.
No.
No, why I asked that, it's like what you were saying there is the process. It's kind of like a football, like it's being bred into you, kind of that process.
So it was almost like I had to go, right, I need you to get to 12 weeks, right? 12 weeks, we're done, right? Now I need to get you to your 20. And she'd be like, why are you doing that? And I said, well, because like I know how hard it is for people to, you know, to get pregnant. Like when your mates and that are pregnant, you're like, oh yeah, congrats. But I think when you see it firsthand, or you've experienced it, you're like, wow, like the woman's body is amazing, and how it can do that. So I just was like, it's just a process, and then when he's here, then I'll enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I just know how hard it is. So I think if I can help, and that's the thing, it's just being authentic, isn't it? And like helping and sharing where you can.
No,
it takes
definitely.
2 minutes of my time.
Wait, so no, physically it's different, but emotionally it's,
and that's what she used to say. She'd go, are you excited? And I'd go, Kate, I'm so excited, like I've not shut up to the girls about it, or like you know, I'm like, oh, this it might work this time. I said, do you know, so I almost like took it away from her but vented to someone else. So she, you know, because I said, if anything does happen, it's me that has to carry you back up as well. So it was almost trying to, I guess, balance everything and keep it together that way.
I think like I feel like I went through a similar process in terms of like the way you look at things. And I think that's football that kind of breeds that into you. Because like you said before about winning, and then you're moving on. And some people can't understand, like, what do you mean you just like, you block that off?
I know, because like my mates were like, oh, have you not been partying? I was like, no, I said we literally partied for the one night, and the next day it was, right, I'm in next week, so I need to like start eating my salads again and start eating properly, do you know what I mean? But they were like, God, if that was me, I'd be off for 6 weeks. And I was like, but you wouldn't, because you don't get 6 weeks, do you know what I mean? So it is funny, but I think it's quite nice to have that balance. Like, I find it hilarious, Katie hasn't got a clue about football, and she's like, what's that cup you're in again? And I'm like, the World Cup, and she's like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite like funny and brings you back down to earth, I think. So I quite like that.
What was it like for you, your journey into football, and was it easy getting into football and starting and stuff like that?
I think so. I started on like in a little estate. Used to like hang out with the lads, and it was a kickabout. And then I had a school teacher who was, you know, really supportive at school, and he recognised that, you know, I had talent.
Primary school or secondary?
Primary school, yeah. Okay. So he recognised that I, you know, had talent, and just put me forward for a team. So it was like an all girls team. But yeah, I always talk about this moment, but my first ever game quite easily could have put me off, because, you know, I received like racial abuse. I told the ref and he got sent off, and he was crying and stuff and
So
apologised.
this was a supporter or a manager? Or
this was a player. So the team we were playing, it was like on a corner, and as we were getting picked up to be marked, he said, "Oh, I'll mark the P," and I was thinking.
Whoa.
Oh, well, he's not talking to me because I'm Jamaican, you know what I mean? But so that was actually my first, you know, a game where I was like, you know, which could have easily put someone off. But yeah, so that was, I think, the start of it, really. So that was for an all-girls team, but even in that, you were battling with dads. You know, you had dads on the sides going, kick a 2-footer or, you know, that kind of thing. So I think from the get-go, you know, you had to be quite robust and...
Do you learn to like switch off and block things out? And
Yeah, I think so. I'm not someone that gets easily wound up. I'm quite mellow a lot of the time. But yeah, I think at that point it was, all right, well, this is probably what you're going to come up against. So it's a choice. You carry on and you deal with it, or you know, you pack it in, kind of thing.
Just thinking about like family and obviously growing up. My mum's white. Grew up with my mum, and like people talking about sort of like, you know, obviously we're talking here October, Black History Month. Was that a thing when you were growing up? Who did you grow up? I don't know your family background.
Yeah, so I grew up with my mum and my nan. My mum's white. My nan's white as well because it's my mum's side. But yeah, it wasn't anything we talked about. It was never. I was just Demi, or I was known as, you know, Demi with the football at her feet, or Demi the little black girl. So it wasn't. I don't know. Like when I was in a team, it was never like singled out, or it was never really a conversation, to be honest. It was not anything we had to really speak about. Whereas I think obviously now we speak about how to say, you know, the correct thing and how not to offend. And I think people growing up, they never got questioned on that.
Right.
So, you know, it gets passed on and you think, oh, right, okay, yeah, do you know what I mean? But whereas now, as an adult, I think I should never have said that, or I should never have spoke like that. So I think what I know now, I wish I knew, you know, when I was a lot younger, and, you know, how to say the correct thing and what not to say. And I think ask more questions, because, yeah, growing up, it was just, I was Demi, and that was it almost.
It's the understanding the education, isn't it, more now?
Yeah, so I think now that I'm a lot older and more educated, you know, I do ask more questions, or I do want to know more about, you know, my heritage and, well, actually, why is this, and, you know, where did Nan come from, and why is Nan over here? Do you know what I mean? I think it's until you're older you go, okay. Light bulb goes off.
No. I'd agree with you there. Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure and an honour to see you and speak to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a really fascinating chat between Rachel and Demi. And Courtney, you were nodding your head along to a lot of that conversation. I found it interesting what Demi was saying about the journey she's gone on from not really seeing her race and the fact that she was mixed race to now it being something that she uses and wants to speak about to inspire others.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, isn't it, for me personally, similar position in terms of when you're young, you're just playing football for the joy of it, aren't you? But I think as you get older and you mature and you experience different things, you want to try and use your platform for good. And I think that's, you know, quite a common thing in women's football, as it is, because you want to leave the game in a better place. You think you feel a responsibility to the game. And then along when you add different things to it, obviously she was talking, you know, about her partner and, you know, having a baby as well. And yeah, about race. And I think it's important that we can use our platforms for good.
I see that some people would see it as a privilege to be able to use their platform in that way, but is it also a burden? Is there some part of you as a mixed race player that just wants to be a footballer? You don't want to be that mixed race footballer?
Yeah, I think that sometimes there is a part of that, and maybe different times within your life, within your career, maybe it is a bit of a burden. But I think it's quite a general thing within women's football. I think, you know, with a lot of men's football, maybe they get away with quite a few things and seem to be, you know, can sort of act in any way possible. And you know, they're just seen as themselves as a person, whereas I think for women's football there's always that responsibility of seeing the game in a good light and being a role model for that, and yeah, I think race does play a part in that too. So
it's important that these women, black women, are speaking out and using their platforms?
Yeah, definitely. I think always having a conversation is always important, and for me something that I always say is, you know, having an area actually to be wrong and be corrected and learn, because I think sometimes we're so quick to jump on things that people do wrong, but actually I think sometimes the intent or the curiosity potentially that people are speaking with, and the more that we can have these open conversations, and as Demi said, in that difficult conversations, I think it's better for everyone.
We also want to see action though, don't we?
Of course we do.
There's a lot of talk, isn't there, sometimes?
Yeah, and I think, look, there's a lot of campaigns. I spoke to Troy recently at Kick It Out, and I think it's important that, yes, the things that we're doing and speaking about, but there's got to be action behind it to go forward. And, whether it be within clubs, the FA, social media platforms, everyone needs to be doing it now as well.
Yeah, much agreed. Well said. Now, after the break, we'll be hearing from WSL referee Lauren Impey, who recently found out that the ethnicity she thought she was is actually different to what it actually is. It's an incredible story. Stay with us. We'll have more after the break. Hello, welcome back to Inside the WSL. Courtney Sweetman-Kirk still alongside me. Now, Courtney, I know you're going to really enjoy hearing from our next guest, because you used to play, didn't you, with Lauren Impey? Yeah,
it was a few years ago, so I won't embarrass us into how long ago it was. But yeah, we played together at Leicester City. OK, well, Lauren Impey is now a WSL referee, and incredibly, she recently found out that her true ethnicity is different to what she'd always been told it was. I spoke to her recently about tracing her roots and Lauren finding her authentic self.
For a large part of my life, I've grown up probably feeling like I don't fit in, seeing like a lot of white faces, a lot of white walls. And then when I'm, next to my family members, I felt like an outcast, so to speak. And I would be having conversations throughout my childhood with individuals, of mixed heritage and things like that, saying to me, Lauren, you're not white. Why are you saying that you are? You're black, etc. And as a young person, that's really hard to swallow, and I've asked a couple of times, the questions at home, and it was, because I'm just raised in a single parent family. And I took it upon myself in June 2020 to complete the DNA ancestry, because I just wanted to know a little bit more about myself. And it came back overwhelmingly, that I was of mixed heritage. All that I could see when I was trawling through possible family members were black people.
How do you react to that?
Well, I first of all started by calling my best friend, and she said to me, she goes, are you going to try and find your dad? And I was like, where would I even start? That's like finding a needle in a haystack. For me, honestly, Jess, I was just so happy that I had an answer within myself, so I could look in the mirror and actually see the person that was standing in front of me, because it was now who I am. And then I came back from work, and then got a new email notification. I think it was like on the Tuesday of that week, and it was like, hi, Lauren, I'm such and such. I've just done my DNA ancestry, and it says that we could be first cousins. Would you like to explore? And for me, I'm like, yes, of course, And then he started sending me pictures of his family, and he sent me one picture of his sister. And honestly, for the first time in my life, I saw myself. And then, long story short, that ended up with us. We're then doing a DNA swab in a car park. Then I get a text message saying, Lauren Impey, we have compared your DNA swab with that of and it is 99.9999% conclusive that he is your father.
So your mother never told you who your father was, but you had suspicions, and there were rumours and people kind of came at you with, you can't be 100% white. Why were they saying that? Was it something visual about you? Was it the way you expressed yourself? What was it?
My hair. My hair is not, let's be honest, it's not typical white person's hair. The colour of my skin, I might come across quite light skinned at the moment, over camera, but through the summer months I would only get more tanned or darker. And now I know that to be because my dad is Jamaican, but he's a red Jamaican, so he's light skinned naturally anyway.
And what was the feeling when you were younger, growing up, feeling like you didn't belong, but not knowing why?
Horrible. I look back now and I carried around with me so much anger, resentment, but it was all because I just didn't know who I am. Like, new people that meet me now, and don't see who the, Lauren Impey of old was, they say, how much more relaxed I am, and, I just take things day by day. Whereas before, Jess, I craved so much control. for me, being in control of things made me feel safe. But now, knowing who I am, I just feel so much more at ease.
I get the sense from you, from speaking to you, that you almost sound empowered by it.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, I actually got asked a question, and it was by a member of the Football Association at the Women's FA Cup final on the 4th or the 5th of December. Who do you look up to? I couldn't answer it because there is no one that looks like me. You know, so for me, I can like qualities, attributes of certain officials, but I can't think I want to follow in your footsteps. And now one of the biggest things that I hope is that people just see me and think, do you know what? That opportunity now exists, you know, and if I can help, you know, be the trailblazer for that, you know, for the up and coming next generation of underrepresented referees, then that's a job well done. Because for me, you should always try and leave something better than you found it.
Honestly, I was absolutely blown away by that interview. Courtney, absolutely life-changing news, finding out that you're black when you didn't know that you were before. Of course, you know Lauren, and the way she was speaking about it, it sounded so life-affirming for her. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's got to be huge for her in terms of just maybe having a sense of belonging to somewhere that she's not had. I think, you know, for me, when we were playing together, we had quite a mixed team of black and mixed race girls, and there were always them questions, to be honest. We're like, Imps, are you sure? You know, your features, your hair, are you sure that you're not mixed race? And there were those questions, but I'm so glad for her that she's, you know, had that confirmation and she can start to explore that side of her life and her new side of the family, as it were. It's
great for her because she sounds so uplifted by it, but it's great for the league because I was thinking about this. In your 20-year-plus career, how many black female referees have you come across? Yeah, to my knowledge, none, except for Lauren. And it's not nepotism, honestly. She is one of the best referees that the WSL in this country has got. And I think probably, you know, looking at that, adding her race to that, I think she spoke about it in terms of she now feels another sense of responsibility to take that forward, which is amazing. Yeah. You say she's a good referee. Does that come from the fact that she's played the game before? Does that help? I think so. It must do. I think there's certain nuances within the game. She understands maybe the intent behind certain challenges, the way that, you know, the game's played. And there's certain things I just think until you probably play to a certain level, you just maybe can't understand. And yeah, I think for me as well, she commands authority and respect the way that she speaks. She's great with players. I remember her saying to me once within a game, "You've calmed down." I said, "Well, you have too." So that makes both of us. So yeah, we've done a bit of growing over the last 10 years, both of us. But yeah, it's great to have her in the league, and she's obviously refereeing in the WSL now. Have you noticed a change in her then, from when you used to play with her when she was younger to watching that interview and seeing how she is now? Yeah, definitely. She's a lot calmer, and you know, then looking back and listening to everything she's spoken about, I think it's, you know, it makes a lot of sense in terms of maybe behind the scenes she had stuff going on. There was a lot of things unresolved and she was looking for answers. And yeah, that can sort of change the way you are and your personality. And as I say, when I've come across her recently and in that interview, she just seems a lot calmer and happy within herself. Yeah, I've noticed as well, though, when players stop playing, they tend to go into punditry or they go into coaching. Not many go into refereeing. Why is that? Because we know what grief we give the refs, probably. But no, I do agree, and I think they're probably, I know the FA are setting up pathways in terms of trying to get, you know, more female referees into the game, but maybe it's something they need to look at now. I know BB Steinhurst now is at the top of it, isn't she, in terms of the women's refereeing, but maybe there needs to be sort of a pathway to look at getting ex-players into refereeing. Yeah. What do you make of the standard at the moment? There's always been that issue that they're not full-time, they perhaps haven't had the investment over the years yet, but there are improvements being made. Would you say that? I think it's slow progress, I would say. I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of now you've got so many full-time teams and still not got full-time referees. And I think the standard of the game, the pace, the strength is, you know, it's gone so quickly on an upward trajectory. And I don't feel like the referees are catching up at the moment. So for me, there's a lot of work to do. But yeah, probably asking a current player about a referee isn't the best idea. Especially a player like you that likes to give referees so much stick during a game. Yeah, I would say passionate, animated, but yeah, referees will tell you something different. Okay, we've been talking about the WSL and how strong it has been over the years, but confirmation in the last few days because the top 3 winners of the Ballon d'Or award have been announced. And of course, Alexis Putellas got the top award, but Arsenal's Beth Mead and Chelsea's Sam Kerr were also on the list. And Courtney, that confirms it, doesn't it? Just how attractive this league is to players, the best players around the world.
Yeah, and I think it's the most competitive league in the world for me. I think, look, Barcelona, Lyon consistently were winning Champions League, and I get that, and they're to standout teams in their league. But actually, for competition within a league, I think we're definitely streets ahead in that sense, and hopefully long may that continue. With them Ballon d'Or nominations, hopefully it will increase more players to come to the league as well.
I know you mentioned Lyon, so I have to say, Arsenal thrashing Lyon, the 8 times Champions League champions, is an incredible result for not just for Arsenal, but for women's football in England.
Yeah, I don't think competitively Lyon have ever been beat by that bigger scoreline. So, yeah, an unbelievable performance from Arsenal. And is this the year that Arsenal go and win the Champions League again? Who knows?
Ooh, Courtney's asking the question. Courtney, it's been great to have your company on Inside the WSL. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And depending on how you get on at the weekend with Sheffield United, you might be able to come back if you score some goals.
We'll see.
That's all we've got time for in Inside the WSL this week. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.